Okay, so we are on the last and final week of the sailboat series, the inner sailboat series. And I decided to go ahead and record this particular week. The nice thing is I can actually see the registrations, and this is the second round to the group. So over the course, there have been some things with people getting access to the group and things of that sort. And then I have a lot of people who reserve tickets in advance because it's coming from Eventbrite. But things happen and people forget. So since I saw the registration, I thought I'll go ahead and record it. And while I'm thinking about that, I want to share something because a lot of things have to do with our thought processes and our mind, right? And positivity and negativity are just really two sides of the same coin. Kind of like last week when I introduced that illusion photo. And I may have it right here. Let me try to share it. But a lot of times we think that if things are happening negatively, then something's not going well and things like that. And just this example with the group, the first time that I started facilitating groups of individuals was with a group of ladies, right? So I never knew who was coming and who wasn't coming. And although we did have good conversation, and so it was easier for me to plan like the next session. A lot of people would come consecutively, like they show up to more than one meeting in a row, so we get to focus on those things. And I kind of fell out of the loop of understanding when you start something new, it's going to have these ups and downs, right? It's so quick for us to fall into a feeling of, is this my fault? Is this because of me? And sometimes maybe there are improvements that can be made. In this particular situation, when I'm talking about the group or whatever, especially when it comes to like if people register or they don't register, right? So this is what I'm talking about. You have one picture, but depending on what you're focused on, so that's the two sides of the same. Oh, you know what? I'm probably not even sharing it with you. I don't look at my video. Hold on, let me share it real quick. Two. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. When you see that photo, that illusion, right? There's two things that are happening there, but it's one complete picture. So two things are going on at the same time. That's negativity and positivity. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the experience, just each thing is tuning our focus into something. Okay, and some things are worth continuing to focus on, and some things are not. It serves a purpose. We let it serve its purpose, we release, and then we move forward. So as it goes with this group, right, I was getting a little bit frustrated because I'm like, what am I doing this is the second round, that the second round has been so inconsistent, but without any feedback, right? There's nothing that I can really do with it. I can just try my best each time. Am I committed to the material? Yes. Is it something that means something to me? Yes. Do I feel good about what I put together? Yes. How it's being received, I won't know until I get the feedback, right? And then I can take that feedback and I can sift what's good and put it towards the presentation in the future. And if something's irrelevant or has to be, because sometimes things are very personalized, and in a group setting, there's nothing that I can really do to address that because it's not a one-on-one session, right? Um, so staying in that, well, I wonder, should I change this or should I change that? Until the feedback comes, right, that there needs to be change. In this situation, it would be for individuals who are receiving it. Or if I take a look at the video or I take a look at the material, and oftentimes I do, and I decide, you know what, this can be clarified a little bit, then we make those changes, right? But there's no good in constantly remaining in that thought or starting to even go into a rabbit hole of thinking, well, this is not useful. Maybe I'm not good at what I'm doing. Maybe this, maybe that. There's all these possibilities that could take us to the left, right? But pushing forward, continuing to make improvements as we know better, we do better, right? And always having that as the intention, that's good. That's gonna be the flow. Okay. So um it's not about getting caught up, okay, in those things. We don't want to get caught up in those things. So I want to go ahead and get into the last week, and this is just a recording, so there would be no discussion points or anything of that sort. Um, I haven't even gotten to the group yet. It's early in the morning, so I'm just doing this recording before I even get into the group. So hopefully I'm not missing good conversation. I always hate when that happens. But let's get into the presentation here. Give me un momento, por favor. So this week is about the anchor, the stillness, the grounding in our lives. And it's the final stage of the inner sailboat journey. Okay. The anchor is what keeps us steady in the midst of chaos, in the midst of stress, in the midst of turmoil. Okay. It's keeping us connected to inner truth, to divine truth, and keeping us rooted in love that we're already born with, that already lives within us. The anchor really represents our grounding practices, our spiritual alignment, and our presence, where we are today, not looking for tomorrow, not looking back at yesterday, but where are we today? And when the waves of life are getting turbulent for us, it's the anchor, the grounding, the spiritual alignment, this presence. It's the anchor that keeps us from drifting too far from ourselves, too far from our authenticity. Okay, so I think today is going to be stillness is power, and the focus is cultivating inner peace, presence, and spiritual alignment. And we'll get into that spiritual alignment piece a little bit later. So why stillness is power in resilience planning. Oh, it's a little bit cut off. So number 2 is spiritual alignment. Resilience is not just about bouncing back, and I think I've said that before. It's also about being able to stay anchored, right? Being able to endure when life is throwing storms our way. And that's why stillness is our power. Finding inner peace is our power. Finding that balance is our power. When we are grounded, when we are aligned, and when we are present, we create the inner stability to face challenges and actually face those challenges with clarity. Okay, so if we have grounding practices, and those can be things like breath work, journaling, getting out into nature. For some people, nature is a point of contention. Okay, it's not something that's calming for them, but it can be anything that you engage in or you disengage from. Like if you need to disconnect in order to get in connection with quietness, with peace, right? So it's about what's steadying us in the movement so we don't get swept away by the panic or by the overreaction, all right? Then we have spiritual alignment. And however you define spiritual alignment, okay, if that's going to be through prayer, meditation, yoga, or moral values, core values, it's reminding us that we're guided by something that is greater. Okay. And this gives us a chance to shift from survival mode and to a trust mode and a co-creation mode. You've heard me say co-creation before. And when people talk about co-creation, they might talk about creating your circumstances, right? Like if this is the situation that you're in, it's because you're choosing it. And sometimes that's really hard to wrap our heads around. So I'm hoping to clarify that a little bit later. But if not, in the next couple of weeks, so 4 weeks, we have before I start this session again, and I want to hone in on a couple of things, okay? Then we have presence, and presence is being in the here and now, like I said, not the past, not the future, but what are we doing today? And that keeps us from spiraling into the what ifs, right? I talked about that as far as how the meeting goes for me and starting this new group, this particular group. And so it helps us release our focus on the past things. And it helps us release creating a pattern in our present lives. Like because that happened before, then it has to be true for what can happen today. And it doesn't have to be true for that, right? So it allows us to make wise choices, not just being reactive. Oh, I remember when this happened last time. And so I'm going to choose to do the same thing. Well, if you didn't like the outcome of last time, you might want to choose to do a new thing. And that new choice is available to you, right? So This is why resilience planning is so important. And this is why I talk about it, because again, when people are meeting situations that they've had before, maybe you meet another, I hate to use the word, but you know, the N word, the ist, you meet another narcissistic personality or something of that sort, you start thinking, oh my gosh, I backslid, I'm doing bad, I'm not doing as good as I thought. But there are many personalities like that. And so the chances of you meeting another is not zero. Okay. It's about how you're choosing to handle the situation now that it's being presented to you. You don't have to handle the situation the same way that you did before, and you don't have to be in the same space. Okay, so that's what that is about. Um, it's not meant for you to start taking it like, I haven't made any progress. This is a chance to show your progress now. Opportunity is being presented. All right. So this is why resilience planning is so important. It's just like a treatment plan in therapy or healthcare. If you ever heard of a treatment plan or you've gone to therapy before, a resilience plan is really just giving you a roadmap, right? Something that you can use as an anchor to take a look at and readjust yourself. Like, okay, I remember this. You know, come back to it. So when stress is hitting you, you don't have to figure it all out in the chaos. You could take a pause, okay? When you have your resilience plan, you'll already have your anchor points ready because it's something that you considered before getting to the stressful moment. So you don't have to make reactive decisions. Okay, you've already decided what you want to focus on. You've already decided what beliefs that you want to hold true. You've already decided what values you're leaning into. You've already decided some type of actions that you might take. Okay. So grounding, alignment, and present, they're not luxuries. Okay. They're not just going to the spa and things of that sort. And instead, though, they are tools, powerful tools of resilience. And there's many ways, like I said, for grounding practices, um, many options for spiritual alignment, religious practices, and things of that sort. Because the point of religious practices are to point you to God. Okay. Now, some people might ask which God, but that's a whole different conversation. All right. So, in a chaotic world, you see the vision, the picture here. On one side, it's nice, it's a sunset, it's calming, and then the other side, it's storm and it's looking turbulent, right? But again, on the same sea. So in a chaotic world, we often mistake busyness for being productive, for being successful. So it's our strength, right? But really, it's just distraction. And distraction is an easy go-to, but it's something that's going to be temporary, right? So it'll do in a pinch, but as far as endurance, it's not going to be the most effective. Okay. So our true power is being able to be found in stillness. All right. And what is stillness? It's not an action. Stillness is about inner balance, about having that vessel that can be filled up. Okay. So in our day to day and how it would show up, it's our ability to pause, it's our ability to do breath work or take a breather, right? And respond from a place of clarity rather than reacting from fear, because I'm afraid this might happen. I'm afraid they might do this, right? It's still allowing us to act from a place of authenticity and something that aligns with who we are. So it's about experiencing the same confidence in stormy weather that you feel when you're having calm waters, right? We don't too much think about anything going wrong necessarily. Depends on who you are. But for the most part, when we're experiencing a good moment in our lives, we're really leaning into that moment. We're really enjoying those times. When we think that when stormy weather comes, that type of enjoyment can't happen. We can't have the same foresight, intention. We can't have the same vision. Now something's getting in the way. But it's really just two sides of the same coin. And sometimes stormy weather is just asking us to pay attention to something, right? So if we're having a flow, the flow that we feel in good times, it doesn't have to necessarily be interrupted in stressful times. It may just be calling our attention to something that can, again, continue to maintain the flow, right? That level of discomfort, getting out of that comfort zone is what, as we always say, it is an opportunity for growth. hence storms and stress in our lives as well. But if we get overtaken by it, if we drown in it, if it begins to be the things that pull our strings, right? Instead of us being in control of those strings, then that's when we get to the overwhelm. That's when the chaos starts to drown us. So, like that illusion of the images that I just showed you earlier from last week, both things exist in our lives, right? Sometimes one takes over the focus more than the other, but both things are existing in our lives in our present moment. Okay. So it becomes about focus and knowing what we control and what we don't control, where there needs to be action, where there's inaction, and when we need to detach, take a moment and unplug. Okay. That's the key to maintaining our flow and directing our energy in ways that support us versus directing and using our energy in ways that sabotage us. Okay. So, what kind of practices ground us in moments of stress and chaos? As you see, there's some pictures here because a key part of resilience planning is reflecting on what helps you stay calm. Okay. A lot of times we focus on our triggers, and we should know what our triggers are, but we should also know what gives us pleasure, what makes us happy. Those are things that we should think about as well and make it very apparent in our lives. So, in the resilience plan, you want to reflect on what helps you stay calm, what helps you stay centered, what's keeping you spiritually aligned when things get rough. Okay. You could be talking about prayer, meditation. Some people go to church, some people go to temple. Some people go to the hall, right? And that becomes a community of individuals that you can consort with, that you can get comfort in, that you can get support from as well. Then you have breath work, you have yoga, which sometimes can go into that meditation church um, category, right? But you have your breath work, yoga practices, stretching, resting, and sometimes that means getting enough sleep. Okay, maybe you need to kick your feet up, but maybe you also need to get enough sleep. A lot of things happen in our sleep that are important. Again, we have to talk about that on another week. You have journaling, right? The work that people talk about. Journaling, maybe you go to a peer group, whether that be virtually or in person. Maybe you go to therapy, okay? Maybe you have coaching, one-on-one coaching. Maybe there's a mentor group that you're a part of. We talk about grounding, right? So like I said, some people enjoy going out into nature. For some people, it's more stressful than it is calming. So you have to know that about yourself. Another way of grounding is even when you're doing your gardening, if you're into that. And it serves more than one purpose, right? Because it's also the nourishment to your body. Uh, Maybe you have a support animal. Now, what you have to remember about support animals, I like to tell people, is they're not just serving you a purpose, right? You're also giving love and care to your support animal. So there is a level of codependency. It's healthy codependence there with your support animal. All right. There's movement. Are you into Pilates, sports, dancing, walking, hiking? What gets things moving for you? Okay. Some people are into music. Maybe you're into the sound bowls, binaural beats, classical music, white noise, brown noise, pink noise. Okay. But noise. Maybe it's even subliminals. Then there's cooking, right? A lot of people find peace in cooking because they're nourishing their body, being good to their body. They're being creative as well. Maybe it's about taking time out for others and being able to nourish others. Maybe some people find I think it can be busy work, so you have to find a fine line between entertaining other people, and but if you find enjoyment in that, that's something that brings you peace, then what's wrong with that, right? Um, and then there's service. Some people find peace in serving others, volunteering, mentoring, and there could be a fine line with that too. If it's something that defines you as an individual that validates you, then it's not something that grounds you. Okay, I just want to point that out. Just be straightforward about that. And then other times we may need to just unplug. We may need to detach for a moment just to rejuvenate, to re-up, okay, and recenter for ourselves. But it doesn't mean that plugging back in gives us stress. It doesn't mean that it becomes something overwhelming for us. So when that's happening, and when we feel dread about plugging in, when we feel dread about participating in our regular activities that we normally enjoy, then that is a flag that says, I need to reach out for support. Okay. So any of these practices, and this is not all inclusive, okay, can be your anchor. So they don't stop the waves, okay? None of this stops what's happening in life, but they are things and tools that can be used to keep us steady while things are rocky, while things are stormy, while the chaos is going on. Okay, so that's what grounding practices are. They don't solve the problem, but they do help you be able to better bear them and get through them. Okay. Now, metaphysically, the anchor is symbolizing our connection to authentic truth, to spiritual identity. Okay. So when we're unanchored, we're feeling tossed around by whatever our external circumstances are, whatever our stormy environment is, we're feeling affected by that. But when we're anchored, we're able to remember that those things do not define, it's something that we're experiencing, right? But we're not defined by those experiences. We're not our chaos. Okay. Like I was saying about people getting concerned about, I'm meeting the same personality. Okay, it's calling attention to something, but it doesn't mean that you have not grown. It's presenting itself and it's an opportunity for you to exercise your growth. Okay. We are rooted naturally in love and in presence and in truth. And there are things that happen that can get in the way, that can become an obstacle to those things. So it's about removing those obstacles and being able to reconnect to inner love, that presence, and our inner truth. Okay. Now, this is alignment with our ideal vision of who we are, the truth of who we are, who we feel best showing up as. Okay. And so chaos doesn't mean all of that falls apart. It doesn't mean that all of that goes away. It doesn't mean I'm no longer, I guess I'm not who I thought I was. No, 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 you're definitely that person, okay? This is just an obstacle, and now we're gonna figure out how this person maneuvers this obstacle, okay? Do we, what is it, ride the right horse? I think that's what it's called, okay? Now, if we are triggered by something or someone, that is an opportunity to learn something about ourselves and to learn something about the situation. Where is this experience shedding a light about me currently? Okay. Or about how I view my ideal self, how I view people around me. Do I view myself as extensions of individuals? Am I able to say that some days I'm going through something, I might be frustrated and I might not show up as my best self? Do I understand that that can happen for other people as well? Okay. And do I have the ability to provide grace when it's happening, the same grace that I want when it's happening for me? Okay. So it's about boundaries. Are there boundaries that we need to tighten up? Are there boundaries that we need to establish? It's about our level of comfort. It's about our associations. Are the associations we're connected to healthy for us? Do they align with our core values? Do they align with our moral values, who we say we are and how we want to show up in the world? Is it about alignment or misalignment? Okay, whether it's on our part or on the part of external connections. So what is this situation revealing about me and my experience? It's hard to take these fingers, right? But they that's what I learned that when I was with what some people say is a cult, when I was with the Jehovah Witnesses, right? Pointing that finger, okay? They use these three pointing right back at you. All right, so first we start internally, and then what's going on internally reflects externally. So this is our first step in transmuting undesirable energy or toxicity. All right. When we are not in control of our energy, we give pieces of ourselves away and we feel depleted, we feel drained, we feel helpless. Okay. We feel like we're not moving the way that we want to move in life, and everything starts to fall apart. But what's important to know is things falling apart is natural, okay? And it's not going to be indefinite. It may feel like a long time, but everything has its season. So when we're talking about stillness being our power, that is the power of the pause. It is the power of intentional choice. It is the power of maintained boundaries. Okay, so triggers are just beacons. It's shining a light on something. What is it shining a light on? And it definitely has to do with me. If somebody's allowed, like if we think someone can trigger us, it's still something that has to be dealt with us. Okay. And it doesn't have to leave us feeling stagnated or weighed down, stagnant or weighed down. So remember that life is going to present situations for us to deal with, okay, for us to deal with our attachments, those cords that we've established, okay. We need to figure out if we feel like they harmonize with our flow or restrict our flow. We need to tap into the stillness, okay, so that we can make a space to decide how we want to manage. And we can take that time, we can take that space and know that that space is okay. And then our resilience plan is that map that's guiding us through our stormy weather. So there's some questions that we have to consider, and we're going to talk about that in just a few. What some folk don't realize is the subconscious mind communicates very well through symbols and images and metaphors, right? The Bible has a lot of metaphorical explanation, a lot of symbolism, a lot of illustrations, because the deeper self, the subconscious mind, our true self, is able to communicate that way and receive that information. And then we make these pictures in our mind so that we better understand it. And those pictures are processed through our subconscious. So when we talk about emotions and feeling joy, feeling tormented, feeling sad, feeling accomplished, right? We pay attention to those thoughts or the reflection that goes along with those thoughts. Okay, if we think about being accomplished, then we're going to think about a moment when we felt accomplished, and it makes a picture in our mind, whether we're able to see that right away or not. It automatically just happens. Okay, so if we're talking being joyful, we might recall a moment like from our childhood or an accomplishment that validates that vision of ourselves. If we feel sad, we'll have a moment in time that we're able to reflect on. And that visual is what our subconscious is processing. So how you associate calm, like with candles, if you associate it with water, okay? If you associate safety with any of those things, all of those visuals and physical representations is the symbolic language that our subconscious understands. And it's the primary way that it expresses itself. That's why all of the manifestation talk, it guides you to settle into the feeling of what you would like to happen. What does it feel like? What emotions would you be feeling? What does it feel like to have folk cheer you on? What does it feel like to accomplish whatever goal you've set? What is happening for you at the time of accomplishment? And if at all possible, and it is possible, okay, find moments in your present, no matter how small you think they are, where those emotions can be experienced today, in the present. Okay. Oftentimes we are comparing ourselves to no end and thinking everything has to be grand, right? It has to be this big display. And that takes away from the emotions that we deserve to experience right here in the now. Right? Now, if you paid all your bills, own that. Okay, it's something to be celebrated and to be proud of. People say that's what you're supposed to do. Well, I'm proud that I'm able to do it and I'm doing it efficiently. Whether I got a studio apartment, whether I'm renting a room, it's okay to celebrate that accomplishment. It's okay to feel good about that thing. It's when we start comparing our studio apartment to the 5-bedroom estate that, our friend from high school has, and we start thinking, why don't I have that? Both of y'all meeting your bills, whatever they may be. And so both of you deserve to feel content and happy about that. Happy about where you are in life. Happy about being able to care for yourself. Okay. If you paid all of the bills that you can't pay, okay, and you made a plan, you got an outlook like this, hey, I got a rot feeder to pay for. I'm gonna pay this in this month. I'm gonna double up on the one the next month. Feel confident in that plan and being in a space to plan. Okay, it's an accomplishment that you can celebrate. But people, we don't see it that way because the grand thing is not happening. Okay, that's what they mean by being content, being happy. Okay, having gratitude for everything that's happening in your current situation. Maybe you are eating noodles all the time, but you're eating and you're providing for yourself. Okay. And I hate to bring up that situation because again, you don't want to compare yourself to other people, but a lot of people will say that whatever you have, like if you ride in the bus, right? There's somebody who's walking who wish they had the money to ride the bus. Okay. If you got a bike, there's somebody who wish that they had a bike instead of being able to walk. You got a car, okay, there's somebody who wish that they were able to have that car because they're on the bus, they're riding a bike, or they're walking. But you're concerned about the fact that you don't have the brand new car. You see what I mean? So we don't tend to compare ourselves in that way, though. We tend to compare ourselves where we are lesser, where we are not measuring it. Okay. So I want to do a guided grounding exercise that you can also do anywhere, anytime. And it doesn't take very long. If you like guided things, I always tell people to find the meditation that you like, record it in your own voice, and then you can play that as your guided meditation. Okay. Um, don't be afraid to do that. Or you can use someone else's guided meditation, or you could just have those words in your mind as you go through your visualization. But I'll have everybody, as you listen, close your eyes. Okay, we're going to take 3 deep breaths. But on the third one, on that exhale, we're going to do some visualization. So let's take that first breath. Go ahead and inhale, hold it, and exhale. And then we'll go ahead and inhale again, hold it, and exhale. And then we're going to do inhale, hold it, and then exhale. And as you exhale, imagine dropping your anchor from your heart into the ocean floor. And as it is settling into the floor, it's connecting to balance, it's connecting to inner peace. So, what does that peace look or feel like for you? Get a visual in your mind. What does being centered do for your mind and body? How does that make you feel? And with this vision and feeling of release in mind, I just want you to silently affirm that I am safe, I am centered, and I am anchored in love. Love that is already within you. Okay. You can open your eyes now. I also tell people if you're not comfortable with closing your eyes, just focusing your sight, like have a focus point when you're meditating or you're doing your visualization. That works just the same. I just always like to remind everybody that you're already born lovable. You're already born with the ability to love. Okay. Some thought, some feedback, there's some obstacle that is now getting in the way of you being able to see that. So when I work with people one-on-one, I'm focused on what's that obstacle and how can we squeeze that out of the way. All right. Because it's already there. Um, with your anchor, it's already available to you. No matter what kind of storm, no matter what the circumstances in your life is, the anchor is always available to you. It belongs to you, okay? And it's always in a position of settling into love that already exists within you. Please do remember that, all right? Now, I've been asked about like religion or beliefs before, my personal ones, and how I feel about other people's. And my goal in this particular group is not about making disciples of any particular thought process or religion. I do personally believe that all is mental. And when you anchor in something larger than yourself, you are able to gain some perspective. You are able to be filled up. You are able to gain strength beyond what is normal. Okay. And you are able to connect with peace that goes beyond your circumstances, that supersedes your circumstances. Okay. So I think that we have to be mindful about where we point our minds. Okay, and that basically summarizes like what attraction is about, attracting what you want, what manifestation is about, having what you want show up in the physical reality. And I think it has a lot to do with resilience as well, about where we're pointing our mind, what that focus is. Okay. Now, religion and spirituality are tools to help point the mind toward the best for the best results, right? So, God has the best, owns the best, and wants you to have the best. And so, for me, I think religion, whether it does that or not, the intention is to have your mind point towards the best, to obtain the best results, right? To manifest the best things, to attract the best things in your life. Now, as far as the Bible goes, it says that in there that I have it, I want it, I want you to connect. I want you to connect to it. And when people think of heaven, that's what they're thinking of. They're thinking about happiness and bliss and not having this problem or that problem, right? But for some reason, we think that in this experience we're having, that heaven can't be reached. But in the Bible, it even says that heaven is within. And so that's why I like to do this particular series. That's why it's called the inner sailboat, because being able to connect with that, right? And being able to see our truth and being able to bring our truth from within and express it outwardly. But anywho, okay. What else? Well, if you're pointing your mind toward God or the higher self, that is the unchanging, right? So material things, those things always change. There'll always be some kind of toy. There will also always be some type of innovation. There will always be some type of activity, but the amount of pleasure that you find in the thing or in the activity or in the experience, it's up and down and it changes, right? But who you are authentically is always the truth. It never changes. That's who you are authentically. And so you can always find the same amount of joy and happiness and pleasure and peace in who you are authentically. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So spirituality is an aspect of our wellness, and aligns with our inner truth. So however you define it in your life, it's the intention is building meaning, building purpose, and also building resilience. Okay, so that's my take on religion and spirituality in a little nutshell. Now, the anchor. How does this connect to our resilience plan? What does your inner anchor look like? Is the question that I'm always asking people. So in this particular part, I usually ask people to design or name a ritual, some type of mantra, or a symbol that grounds you in love. What's a mantra? It's like an affirmation kind of. An example would be like, I am unshakable, right? What makes you unshakable? What does it feel like to be unshakable? Assign all those things to the mantra, not just saying it, but really embodying it. And what's happening right now in your experience that makes you unshakable? Okay. When we talk about rituals, which is really just a process, we're not talking about where you guys try to take it sometimes, or people try to take it, but it's a process. All right, like lighting a candle or taking breath before you make a decision. Okay, so what's your ritual as far as being able to connect to that stillness, okay, and honor it? Talisman or symbol. A talisman can be a symbol. A talisman can go into other things as well, but we're talking about it as a symbol, like an either it's going to be an actual anchor, but it's something that brings your thought process, your mood, and your mind to your resilience plan. Okay, like I've already thought this out a little bit. So it's either an actual anchor, maybe it's a stone. I haven't told that story about the stone in a long time. Maybe it's a bracelet that you have, a charm or something of that sort. I don't know, maybe it's a crystal that's grounding for you, brings you back to that space. But it's no different than the items that we hold on to that keep us connected to like the good memories that we have about loved ones if they pass away or if they're not close to us, right? So maybe it's like the cologne or the perfume that people spray on their pillows to remember their significant other when they're away, if they don't live together and things like that, or if they're in a long distance relationship. But that smell, that thing brings back those good memories that put you in those feelings of having a good connection and a good experience. And so that's what this symbol is about. What's going to bring you back and connect you to your resilience plan, what you already mapped out, what's already been your guide that you've developed when you are experiencing stress and stormy weather chaos. Okay, so it's just a physical item that triggers you into the mood of peace, calm, and stillness, right? And helping you remember that you can have that in the time of chaos and stormy weather. So the anchor, whatever this mantra, this ritual, this symbol is, it becomes your reminder that you're choosing your presence over panic and you're choosing alignment over your chaos. Okay. I also want you to take this moment for reflection and ask yourself, what am I surrendering to stay anchored in love? Is there anything that I need to surrender to stay anchored in love? Sometimes staying grounded means like releasing the need to control stuff, right? Understanding that there's some things that we don't control. And so we don't need to try to control them. It sometimes means not rushing the outcomes or not having such a rigid view of what the outcome should be, not trying to control the outcome. All right. Sometimes it's about not holding grudges. Release that. Some people are who they are. And if we're going to continue to be in their lives and they're going to continue to be in our lives, then there's a certain acceptance to who we are, who that person is, and how we want to interact with them. Okay, so what are you surrendering to stay anchored in love today? Write down what you're ready to release in order to remain steady in peace. This is one of those journaling things that you're going to do. Okay, it also becomes a piece of your resilience plan because this is your commitment. Right now, you can pause the video if you choose to do the activities in real time, but since I'm just doing a straight recording, I'm not pausing the video, okay? Now, as we close, I want to step back and look at the journey, all right? So the last 6 sessions, oh my gosh, this always happens. The last 6 sessions, like what's next on your journey of self-love and resilience? And a lot of people have this session and this particular rotation have come into the group and they really want to know what self-love is. So I think that will be the very next thing I do next week, is kind of talk about self-love in more detail, have that recorded and leave it on the it's YouTube, leave it on the YouTube for people to be able to reference at a different time if they're not able to attend live. But how has your sailboat evolved since that first session, since you first looked at the health of your vessel, if there were any leaks in the vessel, if there's anything that you wanted to patch up, how you felt about your present moment and the circumstances that you're in, okay? What anchor, what compass, what sails will you lean on moving forward from today and on? Okay, what are you using today for your resilience? I really want you to take a moment and either write down some intentions, write down some affirmations, okay, about these questions. What's next? What's your anchor? What's your compass? What's your cell? What are you leaning on? What are you using to move forward? Okay. What core values are you living by? And how will you use them to make your decisions in life? How will you use them to establish and maintain boundaries in your life? Not just for other people, but for yourself as well. Okay. Again, it's internal, not external. So you may create boundaries with other people, but there's some boundaries that we have to have for ourselves as well. So these are all questions to consider to develop a solid resilience plan, okay? Building your resilience plan. So now that we discussed in this series 4 key ways to strengthen your resilience throughout this process. One of them is mastering your attention, your thoughts, okay? Some thoughts, even being able to let them pass, understanding what thoughts are helpful and what thoughts are not helpful, being able to clarify what your values are, all right, what you're living by, and how that aligns with you, harnessing your motivation, figuring out what motivates you and where to invest your energy, and cultivating discernment as well, and being able to step into stillness and take that pause. So with those 4 things, you're going to combine all of them into your personal resilience plan. So when life is getting stressful, your resilience plan is your guide. And you're going to write down what you're going to pay attention to. Okay, what deserves your energy, what deserves your focus. You're going to write down what beliefs you're holding on to. Okay, what aligns with you, what's misaligned, because the things that are misaligned, then you're learning how to release those things. It's a release or an acceptance. I think we talked about that last week. Okay, what values are motivating you towards your purpose, towards your goal, towards your vision? Okay, what's your why? All right. And then what actions are helping you cope? What are your grounding activities? Some of the things that we talked about today. What's helping you endure? What's helping you take that pause? What's helping you release? What's helping you adjust your focus and be intentional about your focus and how you invest your energy? Okay. So your resilience plan becomes your anchor, your compass, your sails, and your rudder. And all of those things working together is the resilience plan. Hopefully that makes sense. Since this is being recorded, feel free to reach out to me on social media, email me at shayspretty@icloud.com as well. You find me on social media as Shay Toston, Toston. You make a comment on this video and then I'll respond to it as well. So as always, I always try to close each session with an affirmation. A lot of times just to give a variety of how affirmations can work. Okay, everybody's, I'm pretty sure, familiar mostly with the I am statements, but don't forget about the key of it is writing it as it is. So if you don't feel that you're there, you still write your affirmation as if it is already in existence. Okay, so I want to close with this affirmation together. It says, I am anchored in love, guided by clarity, carried by joy, and grounded in peace. My resilience is my freedom. Oh, I love this picture too. I don't know, something about like how the rays is popping out is like feeling like, oh, freedom. So that's why I chose it. Because the visual just it's giving freedom for me. Anyway, what do I want you to remember? Remember that affirmations, they work when they are grounded in truth. Okay, because the truth is what you believe. And what you believe is the action that you take, is how you move, it's the emotion that you experience, right? So identify what keeps you anchored in love today. Okay, and make sure, or what can keep you anchored in love. If you don't feel like it's there, then what can do that? How are you going to incorporate it in your experience today? Okay, what keeps you guided by clarity? How are you going to get it in your experience today? What is joyful in your experience today? Okay, what's keeping you grounded in your experience today? Right? How are you going to incorporate it in there? All right, so let those things show up in your experience often. Okay, not just because you're responding to stress or to chaos. Okay, a lot of people say that in church, don't they? I've gone to church before. Can't just be calling on God when you're in trouble. God is a part of your life every single day. Okay, same thing for your affirmation. How is it a part of your life every day? Same thing for your grounding practices. How is it a part of your life every day? Not just when you feel that you're in trouble. Okay, so thank everybody for taking this journey. I feel like your sailboat is ready. All the videos, because these were recorded this time, so all of the videos are on YouTube, and it should be under Shades Pretty Skinny as well. Next week, we'll be talking about self-love. What is it? How does it show up in our lives? Like, how can it be something that is tangible for us that we can see showing up in our experience? So let's sail into the next chapter together. Any questions, concerns, like I said, reach out to me. And if something happens in the meeting that's dynamic, I'll come back and share it in a different video. Okay. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you for watching this video. If you think that you're going to like this kind of content, then go ahead and subscribe. Just going to be throwing a few things up, maybe a few more presentations about resilience, self-love, and mindset as well. All right. You guys have a good one.